let's talk to the tenants for a moment. A lot of them are out there, they're struggling. They've never been in this position before. Many of them, they've had a lot of success, worked hard. Is now an opportunity to talk to their landlord? Should they talk to them?
I can tell you what they shouldn't do, and that's stop paying your rent and don't communicate with your landlord. I know that it's very stressful for tenants today. You have to understand that the landlords are also in a stressful position. While the tenants have to pay rent to the landlords are very likely looking at a mortgage to pay and trying to determine how they're going to pay their mortgage. So what you should do is communicate with your landlord.
Are you seeing that happening, or are you seeing a mix of it? What's your experience been this last couple of months of weirdness?
It's happening in waterfalls. I talked to one in-house representative for a major REIT, real estate investment trust, and she said she had 210 calls in the first 2 days from her tenants. So tenants are calling. Yes, they're communicating. They're scared. Tenants that need assistance are seeking it. Tenants that don't need assistance are seeking it. So there's a distinction there.
How do you make that distinction? I know that your industry shares information, obviously. How is the industry going to view some of these folks who, for lack of a better phrase, like you said, don't need it,
right,
behaving this way?
Right. We went through this in 2008, 9, and 10. So those of us that have been in the industry a while are not new to it. One of the first things we do is we implore them, if they're going to get any consideration from us, they need to show us how they've been damaged. Show us your sales. Show us the sales of the last several years. Most landlords are pretty astute. We know that the restaurants and the hair salons are being injured. We can see that they're closed. We're not so sure that a grocery store is being injured or a pet store, and some of those stores are seeking assistance. You should be very cognizant of where you are in your lease. Where are you at market? Are you well below market? If you're well below market, I would be hesitant to be calling my landlord, and I certainly wouldn't stop paying rent, because you may give him the opportunity to do what he's wanted to do, and that's to get you out of that space. So you should be very cognizant of where you are. If you're way above market, obviously you're going to have a conversation with the landlord. And where are you on your term? Are you're in the last 6 months, year of your lease? Great time to talk to a landlord. They'll do what they call blend and extend. If you are 6 months into a lease, and I know some national tenants that are, and you come firing with both guns, we're not paying our rent, it's not going to sit well. It's not going to go well. So where are you? How is your relationship with your landlord? You can do damage that's irreparable, because there's going to come a time as a tenant that you may need something from the landlord. You may need some kind of other relief, or to do a special event or something else, or you want to carry an item you're not allowed to carry. Landlords have long memories, so be very careful. You're in this together.
We've seen a little bit of this as well. We represent some lenders, and it was interesting how I guess we can all kind of point to March 11th to 15th, right? When the business world sort of halted itself, whether it be the NBA or the subsequent Monday, when most Floridians just stayed home, because then we were watching the news and seeing those spring breakers. It was interesting to me hearing from banks saying, we thought it was pretty bold of some of our clients, some of our borrowers, to be hitting us up for relief for April 1st. And I think that telegraphed a combination of things. It telegraphed, bad will, like you're suggesting, but it also telegraphed weakness, if it was actually something that was needed, if you're 15 days, So we've been recommending to clients when they call us, whether it be for a lease situation or, obviously speak with your bank, speak with your landlord, but, to your point, do you really need it, or are you just gaming the system? Because both of these industries will have a long memory, whether it be the bank or the real estate industry, where it's like they tried to get over on us at a time when, they didn't need the help, and that's something that a lot of people were like blinded by the chaos and didn't think that through. And something we discussed quite a bit in that first few weeks. You and I discussed it, not about each other, but we discussed it in general.
Yeah. And as a landlord, I don't see asking for help when you don't need it any different than tripling the price of toilet paper because it's in high demand. You're taking advantage of a situation, and it really doesn't sit well with landlords. We know who needs it. We know who doesn't. So you have to be a little careful about that. And I've seen every possible, kind of going on to the next step, every possible response from landlords. I've seen the letter says, we're not helping you. You have an obligation. You committed yourself to it. Pay your rent or you're going to be evicted. I've seen Publix, as an example, who is also a landlord, came right out and said to their tenants, we're forgiving 2 months rent as a concession. Publix is doing very well, by the way. Their sales are through the roof because people aren't eating out as much. And they're in a position that's some goodwill. I've seen a large REIT, Kimco, actually hire attorneys to assist their tenants through the PPP process, the small and regional tenants, because that ultimately helps them. So I've seen every type of relationship occur throughout that.
Tommy, one of the things you and I've talked about, and it's people don't think this part through, particularly tenants, which is, and Russell, touched on it, which is the landlords are dealing with their banks. Even if the landlord can have a conversation with their bank, the bank is not waiving mortgage payments. The bank is merely saying, we'll put them on the end, we'll balloon them when your mortgage payoff is. And people have a hard time understanding that, a lot of tenants, particularly, commercial ones, smaller ones, right? They're not collectible. So if they do go down, that rent is just lost. So in many ways, in this, triangular transaction between the bank, the landlord, and the tenant, the landlord is the one taking the brunt of the punishment right now. And it's something that, there's this idea that landlords, right, are bad. That every movie, every silly thing, TV show we've ever seen, the landlord's always a clown or bad. And I think that's jaded us all to realize, thinking that, they got it going on. And it's quite the opposite in this situation. I mean, particularly strip centers, right, Russell, that have, a pizza shop that's doing something, but the hair salon's down, the shoe guy is down, the barber shop is down, and the dry cleaner's down because no one's wearing clothes like these anymore, right?
Right.
So we're not looking for empathy to the landlord necessarily, unreasonably, but the tenants need to understand there's a landlord there as well, and I think there's a balance there. So.
Yeah, these landlords, a lot of them acquired these properties with a certain income stream in place and expected that to be ongoing. Maybe they overpaid, thinking, Florida's a high growth state, so maybe they overpaid a little bit and they're up against it. They can talk to their lenders, and I think the banks have been pretty good about forbearance, either giving up 2 or 3 months total payments or allowing interest-only payments. But you still have to run the center. You still have to pay your taxes and to pay your insurance. And if you have a CMBS loan, which is a commercial mortgage-backed security, which a lot of them are, there's no one to talk to. You've got a loan servicer, and a lot of times it's so much as asking them for assistance puts you into what they call a special servicer, which basically gives that servicer the right to take control of your center and run it. So they can't even ask for help in some situations.
And I think there's also a broader group of people who are landlords than many people understand. They may think, it's large investors, it's insurance companies, it's the very sophisticated. I was in a case where we reorganized a building, and the owners of that building were 30 individual couples that owned a very large office building in Miami-Dade County. So the individuals could be your neighbors, and you're not necessarily taking that into account. And what I'm observing in cases for the tenants that have filed for bankruptcy, your Pier 1s, your Models, and Hair Cuttery, and we'll see some other ones. Landlords ordinarily get paid if you're going to emerge out of bankruptcy. They get paid on a current basis, but the bankruptcy courts in those cases made the very unusual step of allowing them to defer payments. And now we see with Pier 1, even though they were telling us, hey, once the economy opens back up, we'll catch up with you in June and July. Now we're going to see going out of business sales. And you can tell that a lot of these landlords have many tenants who are all encountering this problem at the same time.